Hey, Katie! We have The Message in the Hollow Oak. We are on Chapter 15, Strange Row of Stones. At Nancy's outcry, Bess slipped into the box. She gave a little shriek. What? No food? Those little boys I saw running away, Bert remarked. Must have taken everything. He dashed off in the direction the children had taken. Ned and Dave followed, while Bess sat down on the road, disconsolate. So she's really sad and can't be comforted right now. Oh, don't be silly, George chided her cousin. It wouldn't hurt you to go without a meal. You're a good one to talk, Bess replied. You can eat all you want and stay slim. I can't help it if I get hungry. It seemed like a long time before the boys returned. Ned was holding a package of sandwiches which the little boys had dropped. Bert and Dave had their hands filled with luscious raspberries. Streamers of watercress were trailing from their pockets. I see you retrieved some of our lunch, said Bess. Did you catch those little monkeys? No, they had too much of a head start, but if we ration this food, we won't starve. Dave grinned. I feel like as if I'm on Operation Survival. While they were eating, Nancy and her friends discussed how they were going to get across the water. They did not want to risk being trapped in midstream if the truck stalled. Let's follow the water upstream, Ned suggested. We may come to a shallow place. We could cross there and then drive back to follow the direction of the arrow. They started off, but found the going a bit difficult. What had been a wagon road was now overgrown with grass and bushes. The truck was sturdy, however, and finally they came to a shallow part of the stream. Nancy laughed. I wonder if Clem knew about this road, but was in too much of a hurry to take the longer way. She described the spill which she, Julie Ann, and Clem had taken when the farmer's old car had tipped over in the water. When they reached the second hollow oak with the plate, Ned looked skeptically at the terrain due south. We'd better not try taking this truck through those woods. I'm sure there's not enough space between the trees. The whole group climbed out and waited for Nancy to lead the way. Everyone kept looking for hollow oaks, but found none. Finally, they climbed to the top of a wooded ridge. Isn't that an old oak tree ahead of us? George asked. It looks like one, Nancy replied. The 6 searchers hurried forward. As they neared the tree, Ned remarked, Somebody has mutilated this. But why? Bert queried. There's no lead plate on it, and the tree looks pretty sturdy to me, not like the one with the hollow center. There was no doubt that someone with a hatchet had hacked at the oak over and over to get to the middle of it. The man who did this, said Bert, must have thought it was the prize one. What a shame to damage it, Bess said. This was a gorgeous tree. Nancy, do you think the person who hacked the trunk has anything to do with the mystery? The young detective shrugged. I'm not sure. He could have. George spoke up. If it was Cadel or his buddies, they're probably getting so desperate to find the treasure they'll hack any big oak. Nancy wondered if the state police had picked up Cadel or had any leads on him. She decided that before they returned to the dig, she would go to Walmsley to find out whether there were any new developments. The group trudged on down the side of the hill. According to the sun, they were still going due south. Ahead was open farmland with a stretch of woods beyond. As they stumbled along over the uneven ground, Bess suddenly gave a cry and went down in a heap. Oh! She exclaimed. What happened? Dave asked, running to help her up. I stepped on a stone that moved, she said. For a few seconds I thought I'd sprained my ankle, but it's okay. She stood up. The others had come to see what had happened. Nancy, relieved to know that her friend was all right, glanced down at the stone which had rocked under Bess's foot. Noting the odd shape, she picked it up and brushed off the dirt. It's a spearhead, she exclaimed. The others gathered closer to look at it. That looks like an old Indian relic, Dave remarked. I wonder, Nancy thought, if someone put this on the ground to indicate a direction. I thought it was going to be a turtle. She decided it would be pure coincidence for the discovery to be associated with her mystery. But Nancy's detective instincts led her to hunt for more spearheads. A little farther on were a row of them. She pointed out her find to the others.
"They certainly mean something," Ned remarked, "and they all lead the same way." "But," Bert objected, "they couldn't possibly be directions to the hollow oak with the message in it. I think someone had put them here fairly recently."
"Why do you say that?" Bess asked.
"Because they're in such a neat line. If they'd been here for any length of time, they'd have been disturbed by animals or people. Some would be missing, probably, or kicked out of order."
Nancy nodded. "Yes, I think so too." All the young people wondered where the weapon heads had come from and who had placed them here. Suddenly, into Nancy's mind sprang an image of Bob Snell. Could he have possibly done this, hoping that someone would find them and go the way they pointed? She was skeptical of this, however, telling herself Bob's abductors surely would not have given him time to place them. She and her friends followed the spearheads for a few minutes. There were no clues to the missing students' whereabouts, nor to a hollow oak. Nancy noticed that Bess was limping a bit and said they should go back. On the way, she picked up 3 of the spearheads while asking Bess, "Can you walk as far as the truck?" "Oh, yes," Bess replied, "but I'll be glad to get on level ground again." The boys helped her hop on the good foot, and finally they all reached the truck. Nancy said she wanted to stop in Walmsley and telephone the state police. She was not sure of the right direction, but she made a good guess, and after a while they rode into town. She called the police and told them about the spearheads. They were interested in her story and said they too would search the area.
"Incidentally, no one has come to that house where you found Mr. Armstrong. We think Cadle abandoned him, or one of the gang that was watching the place from the woods when Mr. Armstrong was taken away. If so, those kidnappers will not show up again in Elizabethtown."
"Maybe you'll have better news next time I call," Nancy said. She rejoined her friends and told them the discouraging news. Bess said, "Then this means, Nancy, that you're still in great danger." The young sleuth smiled. "How could I be harmed with all of you around?" When they arrived at the dig, the searchers found the young archaeologist jubilant. Art and Julie Ann together had unearthed the skeleton of a very important person. "We think," said Teresa, "that he was probably the chief of the tribe. Others near him were no doubt his family, and possibly they were all killed in a war. The chief's brain had been pierced by an arrow."
"How do you know he was the chief?" asked Dave.
"Because there was a fine antler headdress near his skull. Such a decoration was worn by an important man." "This is exciting," Nancy said. "What a lot you did here today. I also have something for your exhibit." She took the spearheads from her pocket and explained where they had been found. "These are fine specimens," Teresa said. "I believe they're Hopewell work." Nancy noticed that Bess had not waited to take part in the celebration. She had gone into the house immediately. Nancy and George headed for the cousins' room. Bess was not there.
"Let's go find her,"
George proposed. She and Nancy went into the large, old-fashioned kitchen. Bess, wearing a big apron, was preparing supper. "I couldn't stand the sight of all those skeletons," she said. The other 2 girls laughed and let Bess go on with her work while they went to change their clothes. Everyone enjoyed Bess's delicious supper of ham patties, macaroni and cheese, and banana ice cream topped with cherries and ground walnuts. Later, all the boys left except Art. He had been elected to guard the lab that evening with its precious new collection from the excavation. The girls lingered outside with Teresa to enjoy the balmy night air. Presently, they became aware of a car coming up the road toward the farmhouse. "Who could be calling at this time of night?" Teresa asked. A camper was driven up. It stopped, and 2 men in uniform stepped out, and one came toward the group. One said,
"We're guards from the museum in Cairo. We've come for all the artifacts and bones."
Nancy and the others stared at the men in astonishment. Who are these men? Are they actual guards or are they strangers?